And welcome back to round 3 of the Deathbattle Losers Take All tournament. Now that I have finally gotten down to a fair amount of combatants left, I actually can get the images back into the videos. So yeah, we had round 3. Now, one thing I should note about round 3: somehow, in some way, I had completely forgotten Shadow the Hedgehog in the last video. I do not know how that happened. I just know that someone pointed it out, and I quickly realized, oh yeah, Shadow's not in there. What happened? Which would have changed out the latter half of the second half of this bracket. So I just added Shadow back into the fray. He's basically just going to take on the winner of Gara versus Genos. And then that's going to carry over into round 4. So I just wanted to get that out of the way right now, explain what happened, and there you go. So let's just get it out of the way right now. So Ben 10 versus Batman. Now, I actually have no doubt that Batman can beat a fair few of Ben's aliens because they're really not much different than metahumans he has already fought. But again, when we're talking about Ben 10 versus anyone, it's ultimately, can that individual take on Alien X? Batman does not have any abilities to take on Alien X. Like, Alien X could read his mind, and therefore, any strategy he tries to throw out or any sort of trickery he tries to throw out, because he is a brilliant strategist and manipulator when he needs to be. Excuse me, throat's a little raspy. Alien X would negate that. So yeah, ultimately Batman loses to Ben just because of the Alien X, if I'm going to be honest. Next we had SheRa versus Sonic. Now, strength-wise, SheRa's got a Sonic beat. Like, she's got Sonic straight beat. But Sonic still has a fair amount of durability, so he would be able to take at least some hits from SheRa. His speed definitely outmatches hers, so he can avoid SheRa. Her durability, though, is enough that his base attacks probably won't do that much damage, and eventually she'd probably have the reflexes to catch him when he comes in for a spin dash. Excuse me. So not much of his power-ups to do much. So it's ultimately Supersonic, because that's where the fight would ultimately come down to, versus SheRa. And in that case, Supersonic probably has the edge over SheRa because she is Supersonic. She can't really do anything harm-wise to Supersonic. And Supersonic, while not as masterful as someone like Shadow, does have access to chaos control to some degree. So ultimately, yes. Well, I think it would be a tough fight. I think it would be Sonic who takes the win. Thor versus Boo was an interesting one. Durability, guys, these guys are actually pretty comparable to each other because Thor's got beyond planetary durability. Like, he's gone toe-to-toe with, like, the Hulk, Galactus, Silver Surfer before, Sentry. So Hulk can take a beat. Thor can take a beating, and he can dish it right back. You factor in the part of the Odin Force he carries with him, because he does have a little access to that. The fact that he used the God Blast to destroy a planet if he needs to without too much difficulty. He's moved like multiple planets at once. The World Serpent, Mjolnir is magically based and imbued. He can dish it out and take it, but the problem is, Boo can just annihilate planets on a whim. He's also planetary. He's actually a solar system buster, really. But he can systematically just destroy an entire solar system just by blowing the planets up one by one. His durability is also off the charts because it's nigh impossible to kill him unless you're someone like Beerus or using like the positive energy of a spirit bomb or complete and utter annihilation, more or less. He can absorb individuals thanks to the natural properties of his body. His body is magical in nature, and he's a master martial artist, but he's also very unpredictable. And he can move at easily his combat speed, not traveling speed, mind you. Thor's traveling speed might be well beyond light speed, but we're not talking about travel. We're talking about combat speed. Let's be very clear here. He's well beyond light speed. Like, all the Z fighters, because reaction speed is greater than travel speed. Your reflexes are much better than your, you can't see me, but I'm kind of like demonstrating. Your reflexes are much faster than how fast you could travel. All the reflexes are well beyond light speed, and Boo is no exception on that. And we're obviously dealing with Kid Boo here. Plus, Kid Boo has the ability to turn things into chocolate, or stone, I think. No. That was Deborah's ability. But he has the ability to turn things into, candy or whatever, because he has that magical hair peni thing on his tentacle on his head. So this really becomes okay. A, who's got the ability to kill who easier, and B, who's got the ability to outlast the other easier. In terms of pure physical strength, Thor's got him beat, definitely. So in terms of pure destructive capability, it's arguable Boo has greater, but Thor's is a lot more. Thor just doesn't go around destroying things willy-nilly. That's the thing, is that Boo is like the embodiment of chaos, pretty much. So that's why he just goes around systematically destroying things for the sheer love of it. Thor, not so much. Durability-wise, it's tough to say if they're comparable. Thor can take a lot more actual hits without being damaged, whereas Kid Boo or Boo in general, can heal from damage a lot easier. And Boo can try to absorb Thor, but Thor, I think, Mjolnir will use lightning to just offset that, electrocute Boo. Plus, he's got the strength to just pull Boo off of him if he needs to. Ultimately, for me, it came down to if they threw their best attack at each other and it hit, I think Boo is going to be vaporized, like just gone, before Thor is taken out. So ultimately, yeah, I'm going to go Thor on this, but this is going to be a tough fight for either of them, definitely. And I am open to being wrong if I ever do an actual who would win on this. Hulk versus Doctor Strange. Another one which is very tricky because Hulk has full power. There's very few who could really stop him. Doctor Strange, though, has enough experience and abilities that he could literally just throw Hulk through time. He could throw him into another dimension. Hulk could probably bust out of that dimension, but he could still do that. He could just basically take Hulk out of the fight. So who wins this? Well, if he sends him through time, eventually Hulk is just going to, still show up in the time that Doctor Strange is already in. It's just that he's now lived through the entire time frame that he's been in. Or that you know what I meant. The entire form of history that led up to that moment. Once again, he's just been around. And he'll know where Doctor Strange is at that moment. Because Hulk's personalities can fluctuate. So you could have either have the savage, less intelligent Hulk, or you have the slightly more intelligent, like or slightly more intelligent versions, like Joe Fixit, or you could have your Professor Hulks or your Dr. Samson. The whole shebang. So ultimately, because of Hulk's sheer power, and his power is so great, he can actually, kind of do some impossible things. I will go Hulk in this fight, but Doctor Strange definitely could manage a win. Cloud versus Wonder Woman. This one's a pretty easy one because I've already done Wonder Woman versus Sephiroth. Wonder Woman takes this fight, in my opinion. If she's capable of beating Sephiroth, which I think she is, then she's more than capable of being Cloud. And even if she wasn't capable of being Sephiroth, which I don't think she's not, that again, I still think she beats Cloud because Cloud is significantly weaker than Sephiroth. Goku versus Captain America. I don't think any of us are going to argue. The red, white, and blue fall to Japan in this case. Yeah, no, this one's Goku, 100%. Like, I don't even think that shield would survive a Super Saiyan Blue Kamehameha blast from Goku. So, yeah, Goku wins that fight. We're not really going to argue that. Now, this is Ichigo versus Pinkie Pie. Twilight Sparkle. With the last two, I gave it to Twilight Sparkle simply on the ground that she could turn her opponent into a plant, and they don't have a really firm counter for that. The problem here isn't the fact that she could do that. The problem for her is actually, could she catch Ichigo with that? Ichigo's speed is well beyond that of light speed. And that's pretty much a base form. Then you factor in his hybrid forms, his energy output, the fact that he's capable enough to cut down God itself within the Bleach world. Like the Soul King, Yulok as the Soul King, his Bankai was able to just cut him down. That's how strong his Bankai was. So I actually have no doubt he could probably avoid Twilight's ability to turn him into a plant or transmute him or whatever that ability actually is. I'm pretty sure he just turns you into a plant. I think he actually does cut down the My Little Pony in this fight. So I'm going to go Ichigo myself. Bayonetta versus Thanos. Thanos is going to be running into, has already had probably one of his toughest matches with Archie Sonic, and I think he came out on top. So Bayonetta will do her darndest, but it's not going to, with him with the Infinity Gauntlet, no, Bayonetta's going down. So I like Bayonetta a lot, but no, Bayonetta's going down. Sigma versus Galaxia. Now, because Sigma is actually a virus, you might be wondering if Galaxia could take him down. A computer virus, mind you, a program. Because if I didn't think Kratos could Galaxia? Yes, because Galaxia can ultimately destroy universes multiple times over. That includes everything that exists in the universe, and that includes streams of data. So, yes, Galaxia's power far exceeds someone like Sigma's, and Sigma really doesn't have anything to bring her down as it is. So Sigma loses, Galaxia takes that win. Ganondorf versus Sasuke. That's a tricky one because, like I've been saying, when I use Deathbattle information when it's pertinent, and I think it actually makes sense. And again, Ganondorf having about a planetary level worth of power makes sense the way they explained it. That Triforce power created by the goddess Din created the Earth, therefore it's at least planetary in level, maybe a little above. So is Sasuke's level planetary? Well, his power is roughly equivalent to Naruto's, though by Boruto we do see that Naruto is still much stronger than Sasuke overall, thanks to like the Bayon mode, all that. But it is implied that Sasuke's power, roughly speaking, is on a planetary-esque level, as it is still comparable to Naruto's, whose is on a planetary-esque level as well, as he was able to hollow out the moon on its own, with his own power alone. Then the question becomes, it's versatility. Who's the more versatile here? That actually is probably going to go to Sasuke. When you factor every single jutsu this guy has on his belt, the different variations of fire, lightning jutsu, Amaterasu, Sharingan jutsu, Mangekyo, Susanoo, Rinnegan, Sasuke's got far more versatility, 100%. So that just comes down to the question of, could Ganon get a killing blow in before Sasuke gets a killing blow in? And because of Predapath, I mean, it absorbs chakra. Is the energy that Ganon outputs chakra? Probably not, but it's still energy. There's an argument to say that using Predapath, he could just absorb a lot of the energy that Ganon outputs. We also don't know if he could use his 6 paths abilities while using Susanoo. Could the Susanoo use Predapath, grab Ganon, just siphon it off and power the Susanoo even more? Anyone ever... hey, Kubo, did you ever think of that idea? Could he do that? I mean, that'd actually be pretty badass. I think ultimately Sasuke will win. He honestly just has way too much versatility, including Genjutsu, which he could trap Ganon in. Ganon is not immune to as far as we know, immune to like mind control or anything like that. Granted, he doesn't go up against individuals who try it very often, from my understanding. But like with Dracula's ability to attack souls, Ganon never really had to fight against something like that. I don't think he's ever had to fight against someone trying to mind control him. Add on to the fact that destructive power-wise, Amaterasu alone, Ganon does not have a counter for that. So I think it's pretty obvious, ultimately, at least in my opinion, that Sasuke takes that win. Raiden versus the Gundam. Now, this is a very interesting one. Like, I normally say that against smaller versus bigger opponents, the blind spot's a big issue. The original Gundam doesn't quite have that problem because the pilot has something similar to the Epyon system. It's not quite future sight, but he is able to predict where the opponent's going to be. But the problem here is that he's fighting an Elder God who can manipulate lightning, and has Elder God physique and a master martial arts, and ancient enough to be a perfect strategist. Which means even if he gets tagged, I don't think the plasma shot is actually going to hurt Raiden that much because lightning is just plasma. Add on to the fact that he could pretty much just short this thing out without too much difficulty. Yeah, I think the Gundam goes down pretty easy, to be frank. Or I think Raiden takes that fight. Whoop. And then we have Cable versus Kakashi. Again, this is a tricky fight. Kakashi's versatility would make it a difficult fight for Cable, but it ultimately for me came down to the question of, when would Cable eventually try to control Kakashi's mind? And at that point, does Kakashi have any sort of guard against that? And the answer to that is no. Kakashi does not. Well, Kakashi is not is able to counter Genjutsu with his Sharingan to some great degrees. Straight out mind control, psychic, attacks. That's not something Naruto characters really have to go against very often, unless you're like a Yamanaka or using that or something like along those lines. Possession occasionally is factored in as well, but no, because of that, Kakashi Kakashi also really actually doesn't have much to put Cable down, because most of his jutsu Cable could actually counter. He's like his robotic arm. He can siphon energy to some degree. He can time travel. The only thing that, again, that Kakashi really throws that would actually be a problem, I think, is the Kamui. And even then, I think Cable's psychic abilities would be enough to counter that to some degree. So I think Cable takes that fight. Lobo versus Gamera. To me, this one's a non-starter. Gamera is nothing compared to Lobo. Like Lobo would just make turtle soup out of Gamera. Literally, he would kill this guy and eat him and turn him into soup. Let me rephrase that: turn him into soup and eat him. Because Lobo can go toe-to-toe with individuals like Superman and other superpowered individuals, where Gamera is just a very powerful, but just a kaiju, ultimately. He has no abilities that really threaten Lobo. Even by some miracle, he was able to incinerate Lobo. As long as there's a piece of Lobo left, Lobo's going to come back. And even if there's not a piece left, Lobo's spirit will endure until ultimately he just reforms. So even though technically Gamera wins that fight, Lobo will just come back and kill the turtle long term. So yeah, Gamera loses that fight. Lobo takes it. Genos versus Gaara. Now, for me, this was tricky because Gaara technically has the long-range advantage because he can attack with copious amounts of sand. He can turn an entire field into an ocean of sand. But that takes time. If you're just going by his standard arsenal of sand, Genos is more than fast enough to catch Gaara unawares, fire off massive energy blast, and basically melt and crystallize that sand into glass. Even if Gaara is able to throw out the gold to stall him even longer, or even clog up his joints, we know that Genos can basically detach parts of his body. He probably get the sand out by just melting it a bit. And the fact of the matter is, he's a melee combatant far more than Gaara ever will be or ever has been. So he can easily, and we know he can move at supersonic speeds that Gaara honestly can't. Like, Gaara is not one of the ninja who moves like Rock Lee or Naruto or even like a Kakashi or something like that. His style of fighting doesn't involve movement, so he's actually kind of a sitting duck. And when you're going up against someone who can move at those high supersonic speeds, and whose bread and butter is melee and fire blast, energy blast, it does pose a bit of a problem. So Gaara, I think, ultimately takes the L in that fight. I think Gaara is the loser. Genos takes it. So that brings us now to the last one: Shadow versus Genos. Now this is actually very different. Genos and Shadow are probably quite comparable in speed. Shadow might actually be a little faster because he is just a genetically altered version of Sonic, more or less, with actually more abilities and a better control of the Chaos Force, or the Chaos Energy. He's more ruthless. He does have extra abilities too. Honestly, I can't remember every one of his abilities. But he can survive land. He can survive basically falling from the sky, hitting the ground from hitting terminal velocity and just walk it off. That's not something Genos can do. And then if you factor chaos control, then there's no question. Shadow takes that fight. So I give that win to Shadow the Hedgehog ultimately. So that, my friends, is the end of round 3 of the Losers Take All tournament in Death Battle. Join us next week. We're going to round 4. We're really starting to dwindle it down. I think we'll have. I'm trying to just count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Okay, yeah. 6. So yeah, we're getting now down to the wire here for actual fights. So keep your eyes out for when I finally make the new bracket. Keep your eyes out for that. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, what if, anything to do in the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. I will see you folks next time. Later.